Now is the turn of Erion Demiri from Albania, Etronic Albania, and he will talk about enterprise Wi-Fi networks based on CAPsMAN.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for some technical problem because it always happens with projectors and there's fresh rates these days. Anyway, I'm really happy to be here. I don't have the words to say thank you to the guys organizing this meeting because, in my opinion, the user meetings of MikroTik were the most important things for the community. Is what changes us as a community with our companies or our other communities. I don't know any other community as MikroTik does, and it's really a pity that MikroTik decided to not do these meetings anymore. Anyway, I think that the guys found the best solution because now we can say things that maybe in other months we could not say. So we are a little bit more free to talk something or to give some information. Anyway, I'm going to talk today about MikroTik wireless networks based on CAPsMAN. Just some small introduction. My name is Erion Demiri. I'm working in IT industry, I think since 98, 99. It should be something like 25 years now that I work in IT. It's something that I found interesting and something that I found as the goal of my life, and I decided to continue. I worked in different companies. Only one time, to tell the truth, in my first years, I worked as an employee of a company, and then I created my own companies, passed from one to another, sold my share, and so forth, and focused mostly on networking. Networking is the reason we are here today. I like to do a plethora of things. I mostly work in virtualization, but in our work, now I have a company called Etronic. We became, for just 3 years, we became the largest distributor of MikroTik in Albania because we were the guys that introduced MikroTik back in the day since the version 2.7. Maybe some of you, the guys, I'm sure that remember those times that we have RouterOS installed with floppy drives in computers. But after that, we introduced them in Albania, and to tell the truth, in the whole Balkan region, MikroTik is a appliance, let's say, of choice for many professionals. Now, I can talk about Albania and its a local market in the nearby countries. Whenever we want to have a router for a business, I'm talking for CPEs or for other, even for hospitality that we are going to talk today, we think about MikroTik. Routers, switching, wireless. We are going to talk now about the wireless things. There will be presentation about, I think there will be presentations in this meeting about virtualization and using virtualization platforms for reading or for learning MikroTik. But I can also say that I'm proud member of the team that created Peanut Lab. I don't know if any of you know Peanut Lab. If you don't know it, you can check it out. It's a very nice emulation platform that has already built-in, or you can download labs and you can work with emulation in multi-vendor. There are some features, learning center features that we use in our trainings. We conduct trainings mostly in Albania and in Kosovo because our native language is Albanian, and to tell the truth, it's easier for me to talk 3 days straight in my own language. We make many trainings, and you can check us out on Instagram as mikrotik.albania. It's separated from my company, but we like to do these trainings and to do these meetings with the guys that we do the training. It's very interesting. It's, to tell the truth, it's the only interesting thing that MikroTik has more or better than other communities. You can sit down, you can talk, you can discuss for different things that you find in your everyday work. Wireless networks. We know wireless networks. And believe me, there are people that I meet that say, wireless, but we have fiber today. It's strange to hear these kind of things. But wireless is here, and wireless is going to be here for years to come. Wireless is not going to go away. We can pass in other kind of networking with other kind of media to pass data and to connect. But wireless is going to be here for many years to come because it has those benefits that everybody of us knows. Every device that we have can connect via wireless. So everywhere we go, even here when we entered this meeting, the guys presented the SSIDs and the password to connect, because everybody of us has at least 2 devices, 1 laptop and 1 cell phone. And wireless goes where no wire, no fiber can go. You are all professionals. I know that you are all professionals, because to be here in this meeting for the first time that is being conducted, I know that only the professional came. I know that nobody is out of place here. So I know that you understand what does it mean that wireless goes where no wire can go. You can be like 100 meters away from another building, and you can have, I don't know, a highway in the middle, so you can't go. In Albania, you can go, you put the fiber in the air, but normally you can't go with the fiber. When we talk about not broadband, but when we talk about creating wireless networks, the enterprise wireless networks need a big amount of access points. Why is that? There are many presentations in the web. There is a nice also presentation from Ron that you can hear and you can learn about why we need more than 1 access point if you don't know already, or why we need and we are constructing smaller access points with the passing of time. We are not constructing bigger access points. We are not seeing access points with bigger antennas from the professional companies, not from the Chinese companies that just make some plastic big antennas for the people to see and to look at them. But from the professional companies, we are not getting bigger access point with bigger antennas. And the antenna is the cheapest part of an access point. So why we are not having bigger antennas? There are regulations about this, but also from the technical point of view, the fact that the antenna of the client doesn't change. We are having smaller and smaller antenna in our client. In our cell phones, we are having smaller antennas. And since we are having smaller antennas, our antennas don't have the power to talk back. If we calculate here also the fact that the wireless is being done everywhere and we have all kinds of noises and interference and blah, 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 we pass to the fact that we need smaller access points and to be nearer the client. We are going, like the cell phone companies, making smaller cells. This makes us be nearer and have a higher bandwidth, better quality, and everything else. So for the enterprise networks, we need a higher number of access points. But as the number grows, we lose control. And to tell the truth, I don't know about you, but all the network professionals that I know are really keen on control. Because if you don't have control, you don't have nothing. You can make all the investment you like, but if you lose control of the network and of the appliances there, you are in the way of failing very fast. So, what is the main reason that we learn and we talk about these kind of things? What is the focus that we don't have to lose? The focus is the most important thing. We need to have a full and fast and reliable control over a big number of access points. That is the goal. For this, MikroTik in 2016, lastly, had a response and it called it CAPsMAN, as in Controlled Access Point Manager. What? A manager that is a centralizer, a place, a point where we can control a big number of access points. It is free, as in free beer. We can use it without any license. And this is, for at least me, that I'm an open source guy, it's a very important thing. We started since, it is 2014. I remember 2016 anyway. It's from 2014 that it changed completely the way, because we were constructing wireless networks even before. Many of us, I know from the faces, that were working with wireless even before 2014. But from then, with MikroTik, it changed nearly everything in wireless. What is needed for MikroTik CAPsMAN? For MikroTik CAPsMAN, it's needed only at least one device with at least one wireless card with level 4. Why level 4? Because level 4 gives us the opportunity to make access point. And the smallest device that I know, and we have used, many of us I think have used before, is the HAP Mini, a very small device that can power the 5 volts from your laptop. And you can make that a CAPsMAN controller and make the wireless card there to be managed by this CAPsMAN. It doesn't make sense when you think it like that, but believe me, nowadays, every time the guys at my office start to make a MikroTik network, even if they have only one device, they configure CAPsMAN on it, because it's a mathematical certainty that after some time the client will ask for another access point in another nearby office place, some expanding and so forth. What about bigger setups? Because we are professional, we are not talking about one device. This is a project we did some time ago. We are talking about a terminal of containers, and the company that was managing it asked to have the possibility to have trucks going around with wireless devices, to be always connected with a wireless network, and to be able to check where they should put or where they should get a specific container. Is the port of Durrës. Maybe some of you have heard before. We've used there something like 86, 87 devices for access points. And since we could not put fiber or other connections, we made also wireless connection for the backbone. An even bigger setup, and this is the place where we are going continuously to work in hospitality. This is a resort with some 180 something rooms, and we have used WSAP. I don't know if you have used before WSAP. There are these small devices that were for in-room access points. Very nice, but sadly, MikroTik decided to end of life them, so we don't have them anymore. We are hoping for a device that will be in the same sector, let's say, because it will not be the same hardware, surely. Let's dive a little bit. We have CAPsMAN version 1, and CAPsMAN version 1 was introduced in 6.11 and then was not used anymore since 6.37. I'm reading from the slide because it's not important to remember this kind of data, but we must know that from that version, MikroTik introduced another version that it called CAPsMAN version 2. And CAPsMAN version 1 with CAPsMAN version 2 were not compatible. So antennas or access points that were going to connect would need the same kind of version. So CAPS needed the same version of CAPsMAN to be connected or to be managed from it. Version 2, and this is something that we have worked and we are continuously working, it introducing 6.22, sorry, and is still in place, is still being developed, I think, and with the last version that I think is 6.49.10, something like that, we still have the possibility to continue working with CAPsMAN version 2 and to add antennas to that CAPsMAN. Many of you I think, that have worked in wireless know that MikroTik had left a little bit things behind with the developing of Wave 2 drivers. If you don't know, you should read about it. The fact that in version 6 we could not have Wave 2 drivers. And although there are many devices that have that capability already in the chips, we could not use them with version 6. So MikroTik developed version 7, and with version 7 they made what they call a current version of CAPsMAN. I've read something in the internet, people call it version 3, but the official for MikroTik is current version. They didn't call it yet version 3. I hope they will give it a name so we are not continuing like this. Anyway, the version 3, or the current version, is still not compatible with version 2. So we are in the same position when we was with version 1. So we must know what kind of CAPsMAN we have, and well, the version of it, and the antennas that we should configure. The version should be the same. The best thing about CAPsMAN, it can be installed in every device. It can be installed in virtual machines. It can be installed in bare metal. It can be installed everywhere. Every MikroTik device can become a CAPsMAN server. It has unlimited caps and 32 radios per cap and 32 virtual interfaces. Who have never worked with virtual interfaces should know that virtual interfaces are needed for to have multiple SSIDs and so on. In the CAPsMAN field, we talk about what we call CAP. CAP, there is some kind of misunderstanding, because there is what we call CAP in CAPsMAN and what we have CAP devices that are hardware from MikroTik that are called ceiling access points. So people, at least in my country, mismatch the meaning. We must know that it's not important the name of the hardware, but every hardware that have a wireless interface, at least one, and at least level 4 license, can be a cap for a CAPsMAN. So we have a plethora of hardware, and new hardware is coming out every day. What we work mostly in the hospitality sector, that we are doing of some very big projects, are omnidirectional, the WAPAC, and the manned box. I don't know if you know the manned box, and there is now a new version with AX. It's very interesting because nobody of the same level of producers have a sector, an outdoor sector with AX and with fiber in 2.5. It's something unique for MikroTik and is a good selling point for the guys that are maybe in sales here. Where can CAPsMAN be configured? CAPsMAN can be put in your network in different places. I've made here like 3 or 4 little schematics where you can decide to put your CAPsMAN. The easiest one is the first one, where you have the router board that is doing the routing for your network, and you can configure CAPsMAN there. There are then a number of access points, an unlimited number of access points, because CAPsMAN doesn't have this kind of restrictions. We can put the CAPsMAN in a CHR in the cloud. So we can use a remote CAPsMAN for controlling all our access points. We are going to see why is that. We can have a CAPsMAN in the same level behind our router or in the same switch. Why? Because the client has already a router. He doesn't want to change his router. We want to make a CAPsMAN network. We can add a router board just for doing the CAPsMAN. And also, we can have a hypervisor solution that we have used in many hospitality, in many hotels, where we have a server with a hypervisor, and we have there other kind of virtual machines for other kinds of solution, systems, and we can put there a CHR for our CAPsMAN. In CAPsMAN version 2 can be configured in the menu CAPsMAN. I'm going a little fast now because I see that time is a killer as always. In up to version 7.13, if things were not complicated enough, MikroTik decided to change things again. Up from 7 to 7.13, we had another way of doing CAPsMAN. And we had this wireless menu there, and we had the CAPsMAN not anymore in a CAPsMAN menu like it was before, but we have it now configured here in CAPsMAN and Remote Cap. Okay, I'm not looking at it too much. From the 7.13, and this is the most important thing of discussion, because there is, to tell the truth, even these months that I talked with the guys who were doing the presentations, things have changed, to tell the truth, every week, so I had to change also the presentation. we had this Wi-Fi configuration menu that was introduced in 7.13, that now in this Wi-Fi menu we can configure Wi-Fi 5 Wave 2 devices, newer Wi-Fi devices, and also CAPsMAN in the same menu. MikroTik has been so, I think, good, in my opinion, to give us the opportunity to use and to give us a package that we can install to use Wi-Fi devices with the new CAPsMAN and with Wave 2 drivers. This is a very important thing. It's called wifi-qcom-ac package. You can install it. To tell, there is a rule of thumb in the MikroTik manual that every router board with an ARM processor can install it, and you can have many features that can be used from the chip, but that were not being used because of the old driver. I have users that report like 200% increase in wireless. For example, in CAPsMAN Square, this is I think in my country or in our company, the biggest sold access point. I have users that report like 200% increase in wireless efficiency. This is what I was talking about. The Wifi-qcom can be installed from the MikroTik all packages if you download from 7.13 and after. What we get WPA3 from this wifi-qcom-ac, and what is most important, we get the most discussed thing, at least when we talk about CAPsMAN, the roaming of the client. This is one of the biggest things, I think, discussed between professionals. What is called the roaming, what are the protocols, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we get RKV, and we can use, and to tell the truth, in all, we are going to do now a big project, like some 250 rooms resort with MikroTik, but until now we've used like a 10 or 15 access points, and we saw a very big increase of efficiency in wireless. All the devices that can be installed, and what we like most is the CAPsMAN Square, because all the business, at least in Albania and most of Kosovo, are using CAPsMAN Square and CAPac and its variants for wireless distribution. This list is taken from, I think, some part of the manual of MikroTik. So after 7.13, we have only one menu called Wi-Fi, and there we can do all the configurations. We are going to focus on that. How is the setup of CAPsMAN? We configure the server, the CAP then is configured, the CAP discovers the CAPsMAN, and there are two ways, in layer 2 and layer 3. There is provisioning, and the traffic flow begins. How is CAPsMAN configured? If we are in version 2, and we are going to focus, guys, only in version 2 and the current version after 7.13. There is no point to talk about the oldest versions because they are not going to be used anymore. We just go to CAPsMAN Manager and we just check enabled in the version 2. And in the current version, we go to Wi-Fi. MikroTik likes to change and to makes us have the hands dirty. They don't like to put the buttons where they were. So they changed everything and they put the CAPsMAN now in the remote cap, and you have there a CAPsMAN and enabled. The cap can be configured in the old version. You just go to wireless cap and you have the possibility to enable the interfaces that are going to be participate in the CAPsMAN, if there is certificate, and where that cap is going to find the CAPsMAN. In the current version, the things already changed. We have to go to cap, we can say enabled, we can say where is going to be the discovery interface, but we are not going to be able to put there what interface of that router board is going to participate in the CAPsMAN. We must go to Wi-Fi, and in each config of that wireless device, we have the possibility to choose from local, CAPsMAN or local, or CAPsMAN. Okay? It seems a little bit tricky, but whoever have worked with CAPsMAN knows what I'm talking about, or if he hasn't worked before, he can just use these slides step by step. Cap discovers and connects to CAPsMAN. It shows in remote cap, and this is something there is a long process how cap finds the CAPsMAN and how he chooses the CAPsMAN, the right CAPsMAN in the network. But you can read about that in the manual, and there are also some very nice posts in the forum. But after the cap is recognized in the CAPsMAN, you can find it in remote cap, even in the version 2, and in the version 3 the same. You can go, and in the remote cap you can find all the caps. This is the same. The provisioning can be done in version 2 in the provisioning tab, where you write and you can also put the configurations that are going to be used for the specific cap, virtual slave configurations that are going to create the virtual interfaces, and so on. The name format is also easier in version 2, the name that is going to be used for CAPsMAN to put to that specific interface. In version 3, as always, there are complications. We can go to provisioning, and we don't have at least the name format. We cannot choose anymore the name format, and we can use some regexp to put the name of the interfaces as we like. For example, to have the identity of specific caps to be recognized in CAPsMAN, we must use something like this, because it is not going to do it like before. The data path is something of the worst things understood from people that work with CAPsMAN. What is data path? The data path is the path that data are going to pass in the CAPsMAN network. I've met many professionals that doesn't understand, that doesn't grasp the idea of the data path. There are two kinds of configurations, when CAPsMAN is forwarding or when there is local forwarding. What does it mean? CAPsMAN forwarding, when we have CAPsMAN forwarding, for example in this schema, all the data are going to be passed through CAPsMAN. The access point is never going to send out of the wireless interface something that haven't come from CAPsMAN, and that wireless access point is only communicating with that CAPsMAN. What does it mean? Two clients in the same network, if they want to communicate with each other, all the data must pass through there. If we use local forwarding, then the access points are the ones that do the forwarding, and they can communicate with each other. If you see this kind of difference, it doesn't make too much difference if you see it like that. But what about when you have the CAPsMAN remotely somewhere? Then all the data of that network is not going to pass, it's going to pass through the switches, surely, but they would need to go to the CAPsMAN, and all the bandwidth of that CAPsMAN network is going to be this bandwidth here up in the cloud. Okay? So be very careful when configuring data path. This is the same. Local forwarding in version 2 can be configured in the data path. And there is also client-to-client forwarding, but we don't have the time to discuss it. It's a very important feature It's called data client-to-client forwarding in version 2, and it's called client isolation in the current version. CAP in local forwarding, it's the CAPsMAN that says to the CAP that you are going to go in local forwarding. And when you check local forwarding in your CAPsMAN, for local is the access point. This is the thing that is not too good understood. When you say local in your CAPsMAN, you are saying local to the CAP, not to your router. We can have local forwarding, both interfaces in this case. We can have CAP in CAPsMAN forwarding, and you can see the message there. And because MikroTik is for professionals, we can have different interfaces in hybrid mode. One of them be local forwarding, and one of them be CAPsMAN forwarding. It's very interesting. Believe me, no other vendor that I know with this price range offers this kind of features. Let's pass a little bit. I'm okay with the time, yeah. I'm a bit weighted on looking at the timer. In old version, we are normally a bit weighted because when you have some small business, it happens, as I said before, that you have a router with wireless interface and you start configuring the CAPsMAN there. And one of the most requested features from the client is, what about the wireless interfaces that are in this same router? How am I going to add them to this CAPsMAN so they can all be configured from the same place with the other access points in the network? In version 2, we call it own interface in this presentation. In version 2, we could configure the CAP and put as a discovery interface an interface that is never down. And the interface that is never down is a bridge in MikroTik until 7 point that they have it some loopback interface. You saw that they have added some loopback interface in the newer versions? No, go and check it out. They added some loopback interface that is already there when you set up the router. In version 3, we don't have to do it anymore, and you cannot do it. You can use the same point of controlling the wireless of that hardware because it's all in the same place. When you create a configuration in the CAPsMAN version or the current version, you don't have that wireless to be added to the CAPsMAN because the configurations are the same. You just go to the wireless and you put the configuration that you already made also for the CAPs. Okay? Maybe it seems a little bit complicated for the ones that don't have an experience in CAPsMAN. And then you can, this is the same slide. Okay, I won one slide. So, the last thing that we must say is about the fact that we can also have in the same router board 2 versions of CAPsMAN. We may have the version 2, and we may have also in the same router board the current version, both running in the same time. And this is a slide from such a device. And we have the Wi-Fi interface, and we also the wireless interface. Wireless CAPsMAN is going to configure the version 2, and Wi-Fi is going to have the version 3. You can have them both running at the same time. They run in the same ports, and it's the CAPsMAN that decides in which CAPsMAN is going to be added an interface CAP from the version of the CAP. So we configure the CAP, and then it's the router board or the 2 of them that decide which is the version that is compatible and add it. It's very nice to set up if you want to check it. A bit of security, CAPsMAN uses these 2 ports, 5246 for management traffic, and this is the most important one in UDP. But what is the clue or the problem is the fact that we can filter and work with this port only if we are using layer 3. If we have the CAPsMAN here, no matter if we filter in firewall, the CAPs are going to connect via layer 2. That is why one of the things that we try to request is the possibility for us to disable the layer 2 or the layer 3 if we like. Because now we just have enable, we can talk about the interfaces, we can put there the interfaces, but we cannot decide if one of these version is up. Conclusions, because I go a little bit fast now, let's see timer. CAPsMAN has gone through a lot of things, a lot of changes. We must focus only on version 2 and the current version. If we like, and I really hope that you are going to try old hardware with the old versions, but with AC possibility, you should try the wifi-qcom-ac. And what we have after all this, we have everything in control, and what is most important, the paid bills that we always struggle to have. This is all. If you have any questions. Feel free to connect in LinkedIn. We can discuss, yeah? Wait a bit.
Do you have any possibilities in higher availability for the CAPs manager? Have you tried something about this?
We have tried to have, because it's possible to have a 2 or 3 CAPsMAN in the same layer 2 network. There are not too many tools on managing who is going to be first or second and so forth, but you can have high availability like that. You must learn a little bit and follow how the CAPs, or what is the mechanism the CAPs are using for choosing the right CAPsMAN. And after you read that, you can do like high availability with, for example, layer 3. For example, layer 3 is going to be chosen first. If you put the layer 3 in the CAP, that is going, the address there, that is going to be chosen first from the CAP. And if that is not to be found, then the CAP is going to connect to layer 2, and then depending on certificates and other mechanisms, the manager is going to configure or not. But you can have it, and you can also choose which is going to be the first or the main server or the second server.
Thank you.
We've used in some hospitality projects.
Hi. The AC package, the QCOM package, does that need to be on the controller and the client?
No, it's a driver that it's a. If you want to use Wi-Fi QCOM package, you should go with the latest version of CAPsMAN, the version 3, let's say, because that CAP is going to be connected only to that version of CAPsMAN, but the Wi-Fi QCOM should be in the CAP, because that is the driver. You know, the driver that can be used from the CAP. Just think about Wi-Fi QCOM-AC package as a driver for the fact, for that chip that was already there. The chip in HAP-AC2 square, AC cube, and all these devices that are shown were already capable of Wave 2 protocols, but the driver was missing. So they put this driver just for us to be able to upgrade these networks that we have already without changing the hardware.
So it's just for the CAPsMAN controller, just
Yeah.
to get it in
No,
there.
also in the CAP. Also in the CAP, because then the CAP can be connected to this CAPsMAN. But that is the real point where it's going to work. Yeah. The drive is going to work there in the CAP. Here.
Raise your hand to call for the mic.
Hi. On version 3, is CAPsMAN forwarding is possible?
The CAPsMAN?
CAPs forwarding.
CAPsMAN forwarding. No, sorry, I had it there. I had it in the slide, but to tell the truth, I passed it a little bit. I cheated a bit. In the CAPsMAN, for the guys that are working with CAPsMAN since all times, having CAPsMAN forwarding is a very important feature because, and I hope MikroTik knows that because we have already written in the forums about that, because if you use CAPsMAN forwarding, you have all the traffic coming to you and you have one point of control. You are much more in control, and there are some scenarios that is much easier to configure the CAPsMAN. And in version 3, this feature is missing for the moment. We don't have CAPsMAN forwarding. We have only local forwarding in the latest version, but the options are there. They are not working, but the options are there. So I hope that MikroTik is, I think the MikroTik is working on that, because that is, they didn't say that they are going to remove this feature. It will be a big pity for us. I think they are working on it, and in the next versions, I think they are going to release it. Just speculating anyway.
I think it's the last question, yeah? We have just 1 more minute.
I'm okay with time.
Hiya. On larger CAPsMAN deployments, do you prefer to use static interfaces or the dynamic when you're doing the configurations? Have you noticed difference in that?
Static, 100% static. Static interfaces, it's maybe it's the way I think, or maybe it's the way we network guys think. We want to have control. We want to be sure that this is a static interface and this is going to be like this every time I enter a router. I don't have change of names and blah, blah, blah. For myself, for my guys that we work, always static. You need to use dynamic interfaces in some cases, but still you are going to pass, for example, for some more complicated, especially with wifi-qcom-ac in version 3, you have to, even for the virtual interfaces, you have to pass in a static configuration to be able to configure VLANs. Since you don't have a CAPsMAN forwarding, it's much more complicated to make VLANs and to have network separated. So always goes to static. My mind goes to static always.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a nice meeting.